Hey guys, Jeremy here with Simple Little Life. I get asked this question all the time and I can't answer it because I have no experience. A lot of people ask me, is whether or not a 1x30 is a good option when you're starting knife making. Now, when I started knife making, I started out with the file guide method. You know, you got the bar and the file. I'll put a link in the description to a video that kind of shows that process. From there, I went to a 2x72, but it was a homemade 2x72. And again, I've got a video where I kind of walk through my homemade 2x72. I'll put that in the description as well. From there, I ended up getting professional ones. I've got a KMG and then the Mac Daddy of them all, the Black Fox 1. But is it worth it? Is it a good intermediate step? If you're just curious about knife making, if you kind of sort of want to dabble into it but don't want to lay out a whole bunch of cash, is a 1x30 a good option? Since Princess Auto is sponsoring this video, they've sent me some gift cards, so I'm gonna head into the city. Hopefully they have them in stock. I checked a few weeks ago and they didn't have any of these 1x30s in stock, which is good. I mean, that means people are doing things, right? People are buying and making, which I think is fantastic. Another note, if you are Canadian and you want to start dabbling in knife making, Princess Auto is actually starting to stock knife making specific products. They actually sell G10 handle material. They're starting to sell forges. They've got anvils. They've got different levels, some really high-end anvils, and even like refractory lining cement, stuff like that. They have quite a few products that are specific to knife making, which I am so pumped about. I mean, really, if you live in Canada, you know what Princess Auto is. You probably have one close to you, and now you can just go there and pick up your knife making stuff. I'm hoping this is a trend and they keep adding more and more and more. Fingers crossed on that. I don't know for sure. I'm not involved with the corporate and stuff, but they do have handle materials and stuff like that. Anyways, let's head in. Hopefully I can get one of these 1x30s, and then we're gonna set up and build just a small little EDC knife. All right, so I'm outside of my local Princess Auto. All right, we got one. Oh, we got some 60 grit, 120 grit. Got Corby bolts now. I might have to get me some of those. All right, we got it. And some accoutrements. All right, I'm really interested to see how this works. Now, the one thing right off the bat, one advantage of these is they're not super heavy, you know, so if you've just got like a basement shop or something like that, definitely see the advantages of something small like this. Looks like I have to do some assembly. Another work rest. This is a tiny little thingamadobber. I did not expect it to be so small, but I guess what was I expecting? A little dust collection port, that's cool. Cool, quick release levers. Oh yes. So to set the angle, there's a little set screw right here and it rests there. So essentially you'd kind of get it squared up and then lock it and you can fine tune it. Let's just see where it's at. It's not quite square. Oh no, actually it is. So this little bit here is the platen, and I've got these two screws in here. And of course, every grinder is going to be a little bit different, but I think they're all probably fairly similar. I just want to bring this out so we don't have any slack in the belt. See, the belt's not touching. I'm going to bring this out like this and then tighten it up. And since we have it, we may as well put this rest on. Not that I plan on using the disc, but you never know. If this thing works, you've actually got a lot of versatility packed into a tiny little machine here. Okay, you guys ready? Interesting. So far, looks promising. Okay, we need to design a knife. Super simple. Yeah, we're gonna keep this one real easy, real clean. Like that. I think that should be good. I'm just gonna make a photocopy of it so that I have another copy to reference. All right. And that'll fit right nice on our piece of 01. This is 1/8 of an inch thick. I'm just going to take some spray adhesive, spray this on, then we'll cut this out in our bandsaw. I've wiped this down with some lacquer thinner. Just going to stick it on like that. Now I've got this thing glued on. I'm going to cut it out with my portable bandsaw. Obviously, if you were beginning, you might not have one of those, but you could always use an angle grinder. Even this being 01 tool steel, it comes in an annealed state. You could cut this out with a hacksaw if you wanted to. Just gonna set it up over here, sort of in the grinding area of my little shop. So this thing came with a 100 grit belt. I'm just gonna leave that on for now, and let's just see how this works. All right, so my initial thoughts, I'm actually really impressed. I can't believe how well this thing took off the material. This belt is a 100 grit belt, that's what it came with, and did a great job profiling. Also, you notice this little cover right here, that does a great job at preventing the sparks from coming back at my face. I'll show you how effective it is real quick. That actually works really good. But what I'm going to do is take this thing off. It just pops off like this, and that way I can just finish cleaning this up. And then also, this part here, our platen only comes up to here, so essentially you've got a little bit of a flat belt. If you'd ever wanted to do like a convex grind or something like that, you could work this. You've got this little area to work on. I'll tell you the truth, I'm actually really surprised. Alright, so what we're going to do now, I'm going to take this template off and we're just going to kind of measure out where we want the holes to be. There we go. Now, you noticed we haven't really done too much in this area right here, but we're going to wait until we glue the scales on. There's no sense getting this surface perfect because we're going to have to bring the scales down to it once we glue them on. So let's figure out roughly where we want our holes to be, and then we'll get the holes drilled. I'm going to figure I'm going to want one right here, one right there. That looks good. I'm just eyeballing it right now. So that's where we're going to have our pins, and then I'll drill a couple holes in here so that we have a through-way for the epoxy to bond both sides of the scales. So again, we're going to use these Corby Rivets. This was probably like the big shocker of the day to me. I had no clue that Princess Auto sold these. And again, I'm hoping that's kind of like a tendency towards servicing knife makers. If you've never seen Corby's, what they are, we've got two parts, and there's a female thread and then a male thread, and you'll drill your hole out for the female diameter, the hole through the tang, and then the hole in your scale was going to be this outer diameter, and you tighten them down, and once you tighten them, and after the epoxy is set, then you grind down to that slot. So you need to make sure that slot is sticking above the actual handle scale, and then we'll grind that down and it'll look like a solid brass pin. These are 0.219, so I need to drill these holes at 0.219, and this micarta is 1/4 inch. It's black and green linen, it looks like. Should be kind of neat. Have some interesting layers in it when we shape the handle. So I didn't actually have the camera going, but I just drilled these two holes out to the appropriate size, which was 732. And then we got a nice fit in there. Once I countersink all these holes, get rid of the burrs, these should pop in real nice. I just did this whole thing with the camera pointed here, and I didn't have the camera going. I'm a little out of practice at making YouTube videos. So this is my marking tool. Alright, so now I've got our center line marked out. Let's talk grinding jigs. What I'm going to be using is this grinding jig. I make a lot of these up. I really like them. It's just a solid block of steel, and then I can machine. I can use an angle vise and my milling machine, put whatever angle I want. This one I believe is 7 degrees, and I've got different size of holes tapped depending on the hole, the pin diameter I'm using. But essentially for this, what I'll do is I'll just put it in here. We'll put our bolt in, and that'll clamp it down so we can grind that side, flip it over, do the exact same thing. Short of that, you can always use something like this, and this is just a piece of angle iron. I've drilled and tapped a 3/8 hole, and you can just use this. I've got a little lock nut on here, so this basically is just a jacking bolt, and you can kind of tweak it up and down till you get the angle you want. Now, the one thing with this particular one is that this is big. We've got a fairly small work surface on that 1x30. Weight, I'm a little bit concerned about even with this. I'm not sure if this is gonna have like so much weight that it's gonna actually move the table. We'll find out. I guess we'll kind of notice it when we're grinding, but I'm gonna try this one, and this is it. We're gonna grind pre-heat treat. I wanna do as little finishing after heat treat as I can. And this is a 100 grit belt. We'll probably switch out to 120 post heat treat and see if we can just kind of clean up all the bevels and stuff like that. But again, seeing how this 1x30 actually works as an entry level to get into knife making. Let's find out. So we've got our bevels roughed out. It actually went surprisingly well. I've got a little cleanup on this side to do. You can see that top grind line there is not perfectly even. This side, which is always my strong side, I'm super happy with that. Off a 1x30, I am absolutely impressed. I'm surprised actually. So we've got our kiln heating, but what I want to do right now is get the scales prepared. Basically just kind of eyeball what I want. So you always want to make sure that you're clamping the sides together. There's a little bit of a surface imperfection. You can see it there. I want that to be the inside. So I want to make sure that basically that's how it would go. So that's how we drill it. Now when we set this up in a drill press, we're just going to put a 1, 2, 3 block on either end. And now we can drill right through, drill right through. All right, so one thing I've decided to do while we're waiting for the kiln to heat up is I'm gonna add a sharpening choil. So all this is just a little cutout right in here that gives a definite stop to the cutting edge. And I find for sharpening, it just makes it a lot easier, a lot cleaner. And so to do that, it's really simple. Obviously, before heat treat is when you wanna do this. All right, so you see the sharpening choil there? Alright guys, I kind of feel like I'm getting a little bit lost in the weeds here. The purpose of this video wasn't necessarily to do a step-by-step knife build, but rather explore the concept, the idea of whether or not a 1x30 is a good start to knife making. So far, I do believe it is. I'm really, really impressed, to tell you the truth. But what I've gone ahead and done is I've heat treated the knife, and if you want more nitty-gritty detailed build videos, I've got a lot of those on my channel. You can check those out, but for the sake of this one, I just want to see what kind of a knife I can make with a 1x30. I'm gonna clean up these flats, hand sand these by hand, with my little sanding block. We're gonna put this back in the grinding jig. I'm gonna finish grind my bevels, and I'm probably gonna swap out to a 120 grit belt so we can get a nice, slightly better grit pattern. I don't want to have to hand sand these bevels. I'm not a fan of hand sanding. And then also what I did last night is I kind of evened these scales up. We counterbored this for the Corby bolts, and then we did a radius, and we also used that disc and put in a 45 on here. Now I had originally said that I don't know if I'll ever use that disc, but I was just, wow, I was shaping these and I was like, this thing is so handy. You know, when you think about the fact that not only can we grind bevels, but we've also got an ideal tool for putting these nice 45s on there. That little sucker, man, there's a certain sense where I wish I had gone to this when I'd started knife making. But we're not done yet. Let's finish this thing up, see how it turns out. Alright, you guys ready? Let's peel this off. Oh boy. Hopefully the lacquer thinner will clean this up a bit. I think we might be alright. Well, and here we have it, folks. I'm actually really surprised at how this thing turned out. If you'd have told me that I could do this decent of a job on a 1x30, I would not have believed you. I'd definitely been like, I don't think so. That did not come off of a 1x30. Now, I can still spend a little more time cleaning this up. I haven't gotten super carried away with this. You can see I forgot some of the heat treatment there, some of that scale. I forgot to sand that off, as well as inside the choil there. You need to sand that. I could get a little more carried away polishing these brass bolts on the buffing wheel, and you can see, man, this micarta, I'm actually really impressed. It seems to be very consistent and very predictable, and I kind of like how subtle it is, right? I mean, it's not popping, just a nice hunter green under the black, and with the brass pins, I think it looks pretty good. And here are the 1x30 bevels. Those are 120 grit. Literally, the 120 grit belts are the last things to have touched them, so they're not perfectly smooth, but the finish, I think, is acceptable. So in wrapping this whole thing up, I feel like I can confidently say that if you want to get into knife making, a 1x30 is most certainly a great place to start. You know, I think back to when I was getting into it and I built my 2x72, I did a good job on that grinder. It was robust, it tracked well, but my grinds were garbage. They were nothing like this. Even though that grinder was better, the grinder wasn't better, had to learn. So these things are skills that take time. I've ground hundreds of knives, and the fact that, okay, I can just come up to this, buy one of this basic, simple 1x30s and grind this, that lets me know that it is possible and it is a great place to start. The skills that you would develop on a 1x30 are directly transferable to a 2x72 and vice versa. That's why I was able to just pick this thing up and do some half decent work with it. There you have it, guys. Bevels on a 1x30, and this entire knife was done on a 1x30. Drill press, obviously, and a buffing wheel, but really, you don't need incredibly expensive materials. A comment I get all the time. People are always telling me, oh, it must be nice if you had $50,000 of equipment, and it makes me laugh every time. So from now on, when I get those comments, I'll just copy the link to this video and then they can watch that and say, hey. Anyways, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this video. I want to say thank you so much to Princess Auto for sponsoring this video, for making this happen. I hope you found inspiration. Hopefully it encourages you to get out there, go to Princess Auto, buy one of these while they're still in stock, and then just start making stuff. It is so satisfying. You can develop, you can work your way along and start making great knives. Oh, so much fun. Thank you so much for watching. I truly do appreciate it. Cheers.